What's going on, guys? Jerry Neutron here, back with another video. Today we're taking a look at a mid-tower case from Be Quiet. This is the Silent Base 600. Now I know this case was released a while back, but I just got one in from Be Quiet about a month or so ago. And since I had positive results with the Silent Base 800, the full tower version, I figured I'd take a look at this one as well. So let's go ahead and get into the review. Starting with the front panel, you have 4 USB ports up top, 2 of them USB 3.0, as well as your headphone and microphone jacks. I'm happy they decided to put 4 USB ports up front. It's much needed in my case and really should be standard on anything bigger than a mid-tower. The front panel has a faux brushed aluminum finish from top to bottom, but don't be fooled, this is actually plastic. Extending down the sides of the front panel, you have these mesh covered vents for airflow, and the glossy plastic you see surrounding the vents comes in 3 colors total, which is black, orange, or silver. The top half of the front panel opens up to reveal 3 5¼ bays, which I'm actually going to use. I've got a Blu-ray burner lying around that I could throw in this thing. Also to note, there is a 3-step fan controller just above the bays, and as you can probably see, sound dampening material on the door. Since this case is optimized for silence, you'll notice throughout the Silent Base 600 that there are certain design cues to help keep the noise levels low. This area also gives you access to a front panel filter, which helps keep dust out of the main compartment. Unlike the Silent Base 800, where you had this door that dropped down to reveal the dust filter, the 600's filter just pulls straight out from the top, although you've got to get it at just the right angle to prevent it from getting snagged on the frame. This was highly infuriating at first until I found that perfect angle to pull out the filter. As for cooling up front, the case comes with a pre-installed 140mm Pure Wings 2 fan, but you can run up to 2 140mm fans or up to a 140mm radiator. In comparison to other competitors out there, radiator support is lacking up front, which is unfortunate. It would have been nice if this case supported 240 or 280mm setups. Moving to the top of the case, we have our power and reset buttons toward the front, along with vents at the rear for exhausting hot air. You'll notice the top of the case is not completely open, and that is done to route any potential noise away from the user and towards the back of the case. Not the best setup for pure airflow, but perfect if you're trying to keep the noise levels low. To install fans or radiators at the top, you do have to remove the top panel, which was insanely hard to get off, along with the front panel as well. I actually broke a clip trying to pull this thing off for the first time ever, so either I was doing something wrong or the instructions need some type of revision. But once you get the top panel off, you can install up to 2 140mm fans or up to a 280mm radiator. It's important to note that you cannot install a radiator or fans on top of the frame. They must go in the main compartment, which may cause clearance issues with your motherboard or other things. So it's going to be a tight fit, and honestly I'd probably stick to air cooling if you plan on picking up this case. At the rear of the Silent Base 600, you get a pre-installed 120mm Pure Wings 2 fan, 7 PCI slots, a bottom-mounted power supply, along with the dust filter that is removable from the back. Now let's take a look at the main compartment. As you can see, it's a pretty open design. There's no PSU shroud, 1 hard drive cage which can be mounted in several locations, including just underneath the 5¼ bay, or actually inside the 5¼ bay, which would open up a nice bit of room at the front of the case. It's a shame you can't take advantage of that potential space though, because of the limited radiator support. In addition to the removable drive cage, it would have been nice to have a removable 5¼ bay as well, which in theory would open up a lot of options at the top and front of the case. One good thing about the interior though is the cable routing grommets. They're a good size, which means you can run plenty of cables through them without them collapsing, and they're properly positioned. Moving to the back of the case, there are 2 SSD mounts and literally nothing else. Where's the cable tie point? It's a pretty big negative in my eyes, and I see no reason why this case shouldn't have 3 or 4 Velcro straps pre-installed so that you can manage your cables. Instead, Be Quiet gives you a few zip ties, and that's it. Not really an acceptable solution for a $99 case. On the plus side though, there is plenty of room to hide your cables. As for building in this case, it went pretty well aside from the cable management. I'm running a micro ATX motherboard, so ignore the cables hanging down at the bottom, but everything else was routed nicely in the main compartment. The Hyper 212 Evo fit with plenty of room to spare since you could fit CPU coolers up to 170mm in height. My R9 380X didn't have any issues either, as you get 413 millimeters of GPU clearance, unless your graphics card happens to hit the drive cage, then it's cut down to 294 millimeters. I also managed to fill up the 3-bay drive cage and even added an SSD at the top, even though technically the SSD is supposed to be mounted inside the cage. Of course, I couldn't do that though because of my 3 installed hard drives. Now in regards to noise, here's how my system sounds on the lowest fan controller level. And here it is on the highest level. Now I will say that on the highest level, the rear exhaust fan does become audible, but honestly most of the system noise comes from my CPU cooler. What this means is that with the right cooler and fan curve, you can build a pretty quiet system in this case. So to wrap this all up, I did enjoy building in this case, but 2 things that would make it much better are improved cable management and better radiator support. Once it has those things, it should be able to compete with the more popular cases on the market. So that's about it, guys. Let me know what you think about this case down in the comments below. Like this video if you found it helpful or entertaining. Subscribe for more similar content, and until next time, see ya. Today on the review table, we have a new mouse from TTE Sports. This is the Level 10M Advanced.